Hello and welcome to another exciting randomizer here on Speed Gaming 4. We have today a Game 3 between Corride and tstew. Definitely going to be a really exciting one for us today. I heard the settings for this one's going to be most of the normal settings that Race 1 start with, but we're going to have maps and compasses shuffled, which was the same as what we had in Game 2. So keys are still going to be in dungeons. However, we're not going to know which dungeons are crystals until we find maps in the overworld. And I'm accompanied with co-commentator Ben Creighton. How you doing today?
Doing good. How about yourself? Sorry for getting in a little late.
Not a problem. Always a pleasure to work together on these. I'm doing good myself. Excited to see what kind of items we're going to find. And right off the get-go, instantly divergence from the start. And this is the kind of thing I like to see. We're going to get a quick lumberjack check here on Corride's end. Just a red rupee. So that's good to know we don't need to be going through Aghanim just for that item. And Ben, do you have any hopes or dreams for this race here? Any particular locations you want to see, items you want to find, items you don't want to find, anything like that?
Looks like we've got a sword there in the Lost Woods. In a MC Shuffle game, I'm hoping to see a lot of dungeon dips. We've got that extra value hidden in those dungeons. So let's see some overworld avoidance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, I'm not as familiar with the maps and compass shuffle. I've done key sanity and I've done the standard, so this is like a little in-between ground that I'm not familiar how it directly impacts the runners. But yeah, the fact that it's just 2 more chests than normal in dungeons are now going to have items. That is a pretty big deal.
Yep, there's that difference, and then of course we won't be seeing any early map checks because the map will not reveal dungeon prizes until the map for that dungeon is discovered.
And the compass has some value too. Just if you have it, you have a nice little checklist of how many chests out of how many total chests you've opened in the dungeon. Sometimes it's a nice little extra note to have in case your brain skips a beat, but I think with these runners, it probably won't be that big a deal if they don't see a compass.
Yeah, there's a reason why the other place that you used to see that feature is in the old pre-V31 easy mode. It's a nice convenience feature for beginners, but these guys are pros.
Got a
I'm seeing...
Go ahead.
Great minds. Seeing a lamp and a flute, and I'm also noticing that Corride has not found any bombs yet, so having to slightly orphan those 2 items.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I wonder if they considered, or at least now they have the money for it, they could opt to do a quick little visit to the shop down at the bottom of Kakariko, buy themselves some bombs, and then come back up.
But I'm not seeing Corride heading towards the bomb shop. Oh, and exactly as I say it.
We'll call it the commentator's curse in Corride's favor.
And a bow in Chicken Hut. So speaking of dungeon dips, that puts Eastern Palace in full clearable logic.
For sure, and with some other checks over there, like Saucerla's Closet, there's definitely a lot to be found over there, so that could be a good sign to head that way early.
Yeah, if you consider that Eastern normally has 3 items up to 5 with no map and without necessarily a map and compass in there, plus the 3 in Sorcerer's Closet, that makes that, in terms of sheer item density, almost as powerful as South Shore, which would be the standard play at this point.
Interesting to see Corride's option here, opting to do the maze without checking it first. Honestly, I don't mind that, because it's like, if there is something good, you save time of not having to backtrack a little bit, but in this case, not paying off, and they ended up losing a bomb, as well as some time going through the maze. But either way, using the flute to make their way over to the South Shore area.
Meanwhile, tstew covering Kakariko, following in Corride's footsteps.
Did Corride get this back chest, though, or is this a new check for us with that heart container? Nothing great, but, you know.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. Corride did get Chicken Hut, but they skipped back of Blind's Hut and, I believe, back of Well as well.
I guess between lamp, flute, and bow, they're hoping they got all the essentials out of Kakariko, which, I mean, is a pretty good hull to pull out of there.
Yeah, and the thing about leaving checks behind in Kakariko is you are very likely to be heading back there, whether in the Dark World with a mirror, possibly to check Bottle Boy. So it doesn't cost too much time if you decide you do want to go and get those checks that you'd previously orphaned.
And Corride not finding too much in Mini Moldorm Cave, except for did find the Sprite Powder, which is one step towards unlocking the Bat Cave, the Magic Bat, which I always love a bat check. Don't know why, just always found it to be a fun location, so here's to hoping we get to see what's there today.
If only because of the text in the English translation. That's a personal favorite NPC of mine. He's such a goofball, that bat. And it looks like we've got the Magic Cape here in Vanilla Ice Rod Cave.
I was wondering why Corride pulled out the cape. I guess they maybe thought they pulled out the flute because before getting that item, they just would have needed to tap left once to end up on flute, but then the cape got in the way, and so in an attempt to flute away, they just vanished.
And Corride opting for the fake flipper play. Interesting play at this point, without the Moon Pearl to check Fairy Fountain. They're gambling on something good being in Hobo or possibly on Zora.
That is interesting. They do actually have enough money for Zora, only 8-9 minutes in. I don't know if we noted it before, but it looks like Library has a bug net in it.
Yep, and Hobo does have the Quake Medallion. Could come in handy later, but it's not going to help us much right now.
tstew deciding to climb Death Mountain as soon as they were done with the Kakariko area. Another big divergence we got going on.
Yeah, it's not a bad play with the flute in play so early. That gives you that nice save and quit point, which can save you some time over the course of a run. And Chad is pointing out, with that cape, plus sword, plus lamp, Aga is in logic, but we do have plenty of checks to go through before we resort to that. Interesting. Corride scouting out the bottle on Zora Ledge, but opting not to head all the way to Zora himself.
And now we see both runners going into that eastern play. Like we said, there's a lot of items to be found over here. Maybe one of these will be the one to get us going.
Yep, and we won't know until one of them gets there, but Armos could be hiding our first crystal.
And tstew talking to Sahasra gave us the intel. Looks like Green Pendant is at Desert Palace today.
Not a lot hiding in that old man's closet today. Looks like both runners are heading towards Eastern Palace.
That single arrow looked pretty valuable to me.
It is a unique item. So relatively stingy seed so far. I'm trying to think, what do our runners have to check if the progression doesn't wind up hiding here? There's Agina, of course. Neither one has been to Zora. And without anything that would lead us to any of our 3 items necessary for Dark World access, that Aga play is looking more and more likely.
I think the last check I can think of is there's one item they can access up on Death Mountain, right?
I believe you're right. I don't believe tstew made it all the way up into Spectacle Rock.
And chat's pointing out for us, we also have Escape that these runners haven't dug through yet as well.
Very good point. There's quite a bit of potential value in there, so the Aga is far from a foregone conclusion yet. Chad also correctly pointing out that with no glove in the mix yet, Zora is attainable but not in logic, so unlikely to hold progression.
Which might explain Creed's choice to opt out of checking it. It seemed a little silly, at least to me. Like, you're right there, why not do it? But with that extra value of, oh, it's not in logic, I can see what they were thinking.
Yeah, much like the skip checks in the village, if he winds up back there to check Fairy Fountain or Catfish with Mirror, it won't cost him that much time to go check it. And still a whole lot of nothing here in Eastern Palace as tstew heads up potentially towards his Armos fight.
And with there being an item there, and odds pretty greatly in your favor that it's a crystal and not a pendant, definitely not a bad idea to clear out this dungeon all the way.
Absolutely. Another wrinkle in map compass shuffle logic is that you are very rarely able to rule out an item being on any particular dungeon boss.
And Corride, aware of their low health, going to drop into this little fairy hideout just to get a quick refill before making their way towards the back of Eastern.
Not a bad idea heading into some of these enemy dense rooms, and especially Cannonball Room coming up. Doesn't take much RNG to get you into trouble. And just a vanilla heart container on Armos, so our value will have to be hiding elsewhere. However, it did net a crystal.
Exactly. Got a question, chat. What the seed settings are? Most of them are the defaults from race 1. So all crystals, defeat Ganon, and all the other main ones. The main change we do have is that we're doing map and compass shuffle. So keys will still be in dungeons, but maps and compasses can be anywhere, and maps give information on which dungeons are pendants and crystals.
And it looks like Corride has made the decision to head back into town and just pick up some of those orphan checks. Of course, we know that there's not going to be any value for him in here.
We have picked up a few maps along the way. That was a t-shirt that got. I saw it was a map. I forgot which one it was already. It was something in Dark World. I know that. And then Skull Woods, I believe, was found in Mini Moldorm Cave. So we will be seeing probably a map check to see just some things listed off when these runners get into Dark World.
Yeah, I believe that was the Ice Palace map hiding in the dam there. And
Got a quick
Corride
desert ledge check there.
No.
Nothing there, but go ahead.
Just about to say one of those checks that's easy to orphan, but when you have the flute, it's a nice quick one. And it looks like tstew has the same idea.
And Nagina, unfortunately, not delivering today. Let's see where these runners opt to go next. Creed still has Death Mountain to go up. T-Stew's main place might be Escape.
Yeah, Escape does seem to be the lone spot with some item density still hiding out there. But he opts for the mountain as well. And you know, I have to say I do like this play, because if you do opt to go Escape, it's looking more and more likely that Aga might be the play, and if you leave Escape till last, Aga's just right there for you.
That is very true, yeah.
Yep, and sure enough, Spectacle Rock hiding just a piece of heart.
There's got to be something in Escape. I can't imagine they're going to let these runners go through Aghanim this empty-handed. Maybe they'll get like one lift upgrade or something. Because if not, there has to be an item that unlocks a lot on Pyramid Ledge.
Yeah, really, at this
Which
point,
could be Moon Pearl, I guess.
Yeah, we're looking for the Moon Pearl. If they find the Moon Pearl either in here or on Pyramid Ledge, that opens up a bit for them. But, I mean, you never know. It could be all 3 elements of Dark World access just hiding right in here, waiting for them to find it. And if that's the case, both of them having put this off just about until last, we know that they're just about neck and neck, but... Oh, and there it is!
Well, that's one. Let's see if we can get 2 more.
Yep. If the next 2 chests are a lift upgrade and hammer, and you're one of these runners, you've got to be thinking, did the other guy do this straight away? What's happening? Where am I at? But so far, we also haven't seen the small key, meaning the backside of Escape is not accessible yet. tstew taking some intentional damage here, setting up a nice death warp. Get him back to the entrance nice and quick. Because as chat rightly points out, Dark Cross is in the logic. But by my reckoning, unless Dark Cross is holding a key or something else opening up a large number of locations, it's very likely we'll be seeing another death warp back to the entrance and a play to Aga after this. And sure enough, it's a red meringue. Looks like we have the fabled Aga seed here again.
And looking at their equipment, it's kind of on the low side. They have a few extra hearts, but they still are stuck with a fighter sword and green mail. So, going to be a little interesting fighting their way through this tower. Can be a little dangerous, but these route runners are pretty good. I can't imagine they'll get hung up too much.
And with no hookshot, no flippers, no hammer, no way to get out of east side of Dark World, their options coming out of the Aga fight are sort of limited. There's Pyramid, there's Catfish, and then there's heading into Pod.
What do you think of Vanilla finding Hammer in Pod? Think that might happen?
I mean, if there has to be a seed for that to happen in, this is a pretty good one, where you're going in there anyway.
Catfish is locked behind lift upgrades just like the back Zora areas, isn't it?
Yep, you are absolutely right. Yeah, it's easy to forget the things that are lift locked just because that first glove usually comes so early in the seed, but not today.
We always appreciate you guys in chat keeping us honest.
So far, tstew having a slight lead, mostly on account of slightly more efficient routing, but it'll be real interesting to see what happens when the seed opens up a little more. So far, it's been relatively linear.
Gotta say, one of my favorite enemies in the game are these knights in Aga Tower that are like holding their swords over their heads. I'm just picturing like some crazy person, like just, you know, that's not how you use a sword efficiently. Just very amusing to me. I don't know.
You can just about hear the psycho strings in your head when they're coming towards you. Ooh, and tstew taking a death. That's gonna cost him some time. That is unfortunate.
And down to a heart and a half. Corride's got to be a little careful here as well.
And Corride now down to half a heart, opting to play it safe and get out that boomerang. I'm not sure if we've seen the stun prize yet, but it's just a single rupee. Not gonna help you.
Oh, I'm sure for Corride, those little eye bats have never looked so terrifying.
He came within a pixel or three of taking another ignoble death here. You can see him playing very cautious. Picking up those safety hearts that one would normally skip. And taking another hit from our Psycho Guard. This has been a real rough Aga Tower for both of our runners here today.
Almost fell off after taking a hit there. That would have done it for Corey.
And that would have been at the exact same place that tstew took his fall. This is going to be a tense Aga fight, usually one of the easier, more relaxing fights in the game. All you have to worry about is RNG giving you too many blue balls, but here, those blue balls could wind up being deadly if you're not careful about where you stand.
Any chance either runner-ups to use the cape here?
Wouldn't be a bad idea. I believe blue balls only do half a heart of damage. Correct me if I'm wrong, so we could take one hit.
And tstew enters the fight a little more comfortably at 2.5 hearts there.
And Aga is just being cruel with the blue balls today. I haven't been counting, but it's been quite a few. Chat reporting 4, just turned into 5, and now 6, so... yeah, quite a few. But Corride finishing out the fight with no damage taken.
I'm sure
now we'll get that nice refill on the pyramid. And, as you predicted, a quick Dark World map check reveals a 5/6 crystal in Skull Woods and an ordinary blue crystal in Ice Palace. 2 pendants still to be located. And speaking of safeties that one might normally skip, Corride says, you know what, I will take this heart container. The way this day has been going, let's play it safe.
But tstew hot on their heels. This is a really neck-and-neck race so far. And so we know pot has to have something in it, because there's nothing else for us to check right now.
Correct. But there are quite a few checks in there, because pod is usually, what, 5 checks plus 2 for the map and compass that would normally be there?
Sounds right to me.
-1 since Helmasaur is hammer locked, but still 6 checks in there? That could be full Dark World access right there for all we know. Could be a hook shot to get over to the Village of Outcasts area. Could be any number of things to open this seed up a bit more.
I'm feeling vanilla hammer. I don't know why. I just want to see a hammer. Give these runners something stronger to work with.
Sure, I mean, that would get us down to Hype Cave. Would let them finish out the dungeon. We don't know whether that'll be a crystal or a pendant, but if you find a hammer in here, you gotta go fight that dinosaur. It is such a long walk to get back into here. You don't gamble that it's a pendant.
Speaking of long walks, this check tstew's doing, Corride just did it. I'm so used to seeing, you mirror right back to the top of the dungeon. Watching this just long trek back up just feels so painful.
Yep. Also why normally you would see runners using their bow to get through the right side, but with no hammer to hop back down and no mirror to get back to the entrance, that is a long walk for 2 checks. Not surprised to see both runners potentially saving that for last. And speaking of the mirror, hiding in the vanilla big key chest. That'll make picking up those 2 right-hand checks much easier. It'll also open the way to Tower of Hera. Tower of Hera, another fully clearable in-logic dungeon. Normally one of the lower value dungeons with only 2 checks, but 4 now, because of map compass shuffle. So that might be a strong next play if we don't find anything else more interesting in here.
Right side just gave us a power glove, though. So Corride's got that lift upgrade, and tstew will be finding it shortly thereafter.
Trying to think what that opens up at this point in the seed. That'll open up Catfish into Zora might be a potentially interesting play. Wouldn't be able to check Fairy Fountain in the same trip, but with Flute in play, that's not too terribly time-consuming to get back to later if it winds up being necessary.
tstew taking a death orb. I wonder if it's because they forgot they had mirror or just figured it would be faster or wanted a health refill or something to get back to the entrance of the dungeon.
Yeah, I suppose with green mail and only 7 hearts in a Dark World dungeon, not a bad idea to take that little bit of extra life.
Also, I must have blinked, but Corride now has a hammer. I didn't see if it was in the dark U room or right above it. We'll see where tstew grabs it momentarily here.
Well, there you go. You called it. French vanilla hammer here today. have the same problem commentating that I do when I'm playing. I get so wrapped up trying to think 3 steps ahead, I miss what's right in front of me. Because I missed that hammer pickup too. Looks like it's going to be in the right side of the dark room here.
And I like T-Stew's use of the powder just to get a fairy for a quick little refill. Always nice to be aware of what items you have and when they are convenient to you.
Absolutely, especially heading into a relatively low-powered Helmasaur fight. It'll be good, with the safeties up ahead of him, he will likely be able to enter that in pretty good shape.
So now, coming out of Pod, they've got Hammer, they've got Mirror, they've got Power Glove. Suddenly, this seed just opened up, didn't it?
Absolutely. That gives us access to Hype Cave, to the Dark Village area. Backside Escape is right there with... One of those checks has to be the small key, so 2 checks, but 2 relatively quick checks. T-Stew opting to pop his head out for a quick map check, just see if he can get a hint at what Helmasaur might be hiding, but it will remain a mystery, which he decides to go solve following in Corride's footsteps. Fortunately, Helmasaur being one of the kinder bosses to try to fight with only Fighter Sword, because that bow will make short work of his last phase here. And Corride just wades right in, tanking those hints. He's not worried.
I'll admit I was getting a little worried. I'm not as familiar with all the damage counters. I just saw the health go down, suddenly down to 2 hearts, and I know Helmasaur can just do massive damage if you're not careful.
It's true. T-Stew making efficient work of the turtle room here. And it looks like Helmasaur was in fact hiding a crystal, so far no inadvertent pendant dips, which is something that can definitely happen in this particular mode. Looks like Corride opting to take a look into Hype Cave before heading into the Dark Village area.
We don't need that map. Put that away. Thought that was going to be something helpful. It's just the map to the dungeon we just cleared. Swamp, that one could be better. Bombs, and a red rupee. So a little bit of intel and a whole lot of garbage.
1 out of 10, very little hype. Now, where is Corride heading here? Oh, okay, he's gonna check out Stumpy and probably dig game afterwards.
Yeah, doing this southwest loop a little backwards from how I'm used to seeing. I usually see people come from Village of Outcasts down to here, and then loop over towards Hype Cave. But this opting to start at Hype Cave and bring their way down to the left. Nice little change of pace.
Yeah, it's a play that you see a little more commonly if the runner has already picked up the Titan's mitts and can just head straight up into town from the south, but not gonna be the case today unless we get a miracle Titans buried in did game. And it looks like tstew heading the same way. We had a couple of options coming out of that loaded pod, but so far our runners are remaining in lockstep. And with a map check, we do find out that Swamp Palace is going to be a red pendant.
8 digs to find a vanilla piece of heart in digging game. Corride's just noping on out of there.
And the friendly bomb shop vendor informing us that Turtle Rock is a crystal, and I didn't quite catch the other one.
It was Skull Woods, which we already had the map for, actually.
Ah, that was it.
So that pendant swamp is actually really rough to see, as chat points out. There's now 8 items that could be found in there. And that's 8 items that you don't want to have to go check because it's a pendant.
Yeah, at this point, our runners are hoping for some late flippers so they don't have to make that decision.
True. We don't need to worry about it yet. It's just something that's going to be... they'll have to think about.
Yeah, and Chad also rightly points out, without the hook shot, only about half of those will be available even with the flippers.
And Corride doing a nice little dip into Skullwoods here. There's 4 items to be found, including a Cane of Samaria. That is huge.
Yep, 4 items total to be found in Skullwoods. I believe the way key logic works out, we'll have to find at least 1 small key in the front here, so even with optimal RNG, won't be able to find all of the value in here, but still a good check. I know a lot of runners consider the front of Skullwoods to be basically the overworld, hardly even considered a dip.
And we got ourselves a bat check on tstew's side. Got a little excited for this. Hope we got something good today. It never is. It just never is.
So as far as full clearable dungeons go, Hera is available, Thieves' Town is available, but we don't know what the prize will be. It's a 50-50 shot whether that's hiding the last pendant or one of our necessary crystals. So it'll be interesting to see whether our runners decide to... Well, seems like tstew's made his decision. He's heading up for the guaranteed crystal.
Bumper Cave we see not having too much value there, even though we had access to it. Let's see where Corride goes from here.
Yep, Corride appears to be opting for check density over the guaranteed crystal, so starting to see a little more divergence out of our 2 runners now. Although with Hammer in tow, oh, and a Fire Rod in Hera Basement. That means tstew will be able to knock out Skullwoods completely when he does make his Dark Village play.
And finding that big key, here's the hoping that we don't find ourselves a small key and it's locked itself in the basement of Tower of Hera.
Yeah, that time-consuming Tower of Hera tile room is much more likely to hold value in Map Compass Shuffle. But one can hope.
Corride deciding, checking out Thieves Town. Now, this is full clearable, but we don't know what kind of dungeon it is. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got one pendant still unaccounted for. It could be either here or in Misery Mire. Oh, and you hate to see that. tstew taking a death mere inches away from those safety hearts.
And Corride, about to get to the vanilla big key chest in Thieves Town, gets hit while under the bridge. So we didn't see the hit. They didn't know if they were close to enemy. Unfortunately, both runners taking deaths. It looks like Corride, I think, will be able to catch up to where they were sooner.
Yeah, he definitely has not quite as far to go to get back to where he was, and the front of Thieves Town, that'll happen sometimes. You got those enemies that you've just got to hope they're not where you fear they are. And for those just joining us, we do have a tournament race today. Game 3 of the set between these two particular runners and Map Compass Shuffle. All other settings tournament standard. Ooh, and that is tstew's second dive from everyone's favorite Troll Dorm. And Trolldorm gets one final troll in on tstew. He says, "Here, go find the item in the basement."
I saw Corride was low on health, but now that I see they have the magic powder out, their health's back up. They must have grabbed a fairy. Very good awareness with how much damage these Dark World enemies are dealing out. tstew, not wanting to orphan any checks, just tired of how the seed's been treating him, decides, you know what? I'm checking this basement. I'm not letting it fester in the back of my head. We're getting this item, whatever it is. It better be good.
tstew running a little bit behind on account of some unfortunate deaths, but that fire rod will help him pick up a little time later on, so we still have a very close race.
And depending on if Thieves Town is a crystal or a pendant, it could make all the difference.
tstew picking up his second lift upgrade. Looks like that basement play was a very good gamble. He'll be able to do Dark Death Mountain on this trip. That just picked him up potentially quite a bit of time. And hookshot on the ledge, meaning he'll be able to do hookshot cave. This Death Mountain play is turning out quite profitable for tstew, as Corride takes down Blind in a nice clean fight and picks up another crystal.
And I think with all the value tstew is finding back-to-back, Corride really needed that to be a crystal to like keep this to be as close of a game as it is so far. It's hard to tell how close it really is with how far apart these runners are in their routing, but definitely that was good for Corride that at least they have a crystal in their hand, as tstew is just stocking up on items up on Death Mountain.
Yeah, if that Thieves Town item had wound up being a pendant, tstew may be able to skip that by the time he finally makes his way down there, and that could have represented a problem for Corride. Fortunately, both runners are going to have to go ahead and take down Blind anyway.
So at this point, I think the big question is when Corride makes their way to Hera, do they orphan the basement? Because that's going to be a big deal if they do.
Fortunately, well, it really depends on what he picks up before getting up there. If he's heading up there next... If he finds something here in the backside of Escape that sends him another way, that could be a problem. But having already picked up a lot of the overworld stuff that tstew has left till later, by the time he gets that far, he may think, there are so few places left to check, I better just full clear this, much as tstew did. And tstew finding boots here in Paradox Cave. Nice to see.
As well as a shovel, a fire shield, and also got the map to Misery Mire. So now tstew will have knowledge of where all crystals and pendants are, and will know at this point that they have to do Thieves Town.
So at this point, I'm trying to think what we need for go mode. We're going to need at least one medallion. Let's see which one it is. I missed it. It looked like Quake?
I believe so, yes. I think I saw the top of a wave whooshing on the coin there.
And then Ice Rod to finish out Turtle Rock. We might be in for yet another Ice Rod hunt this seed.
I don't need another one of those. Last time I saw one, it was on the last chest in Laser Bridge. And I don't want to see that again, if I'm being honest.
I know we're all here to watch a whole lot of Link to the Past, but sometimes we gotta give our runners a little bit of kindness. And then we will also need flippers for, or no. Logically, we'll need flippers for Ice Palace. But with fake flippers, it's conceivable that the runners finish out without them. And tstew finding the Master Sword there in Hookshot Cave. Another one of those items that is strictly necessary, but it's easy to forget about because it's also possible to find that one in GT, worst case scenario.
T2 about to head into Spike Cave. Glad they grabbed that fairy to help take a few hits walking across these spikes.
And we're about to see a moment of truth from Corride. They've got a decision to make. Do they dip into Hera Basement? Because if they don't, they're going to have a tough time. Okay, and Corride making what we know to be the correct decision.
If there's any fans of Corride in chat, I'm sure you're all taking a huge sigh of relief there.
And even if you're a tstew fan, you want to see a good race here today. It's no fun to watch a race that winds up being a blowout just because of one decision.
And chat letting us know, looks like Bombos is the medallion for Misery Mire here, which without it in hand, that's kind of good news. That means we don't have to worry about dipping there for an item. So hopefully we don't see Bombos anytime soon. And never mind.
Oh, the commentator's curse. Speaking of cursed, oh, Corride getting himself stuck in geometry on that coffee break. Gonna have to wait through that tile room all over again. And it would be hard to blame him for saying, you know what? I'll go do some other checks. I can come back here easily enough after I've done the rest of Death Mountain, but his rando sense is telling him there's something good down here. This is worth spending the time. And he's right.
So a question I like to think about at this point, as we know how close these runners are to go mode. Oh, we have Blue Mail. That's good from T2 side and Desert. Is this still possibly a pedestal seed?
Mire is full clearable. Desert is full clearable. So yeah, definitely a potential pedestal seed. tstew, by the way, making the interesting decision. Ooh, picking up a tempered sword, which is nice. He's found some nice safety here in Desert, but he is making the decision to go into a pendant desert when he does have Thieves Town and Skull Woods, both full clearable, both guaranteed crystals. So making a bit of a gamble here, hoping to find some value on that green pendant.
I was going to say, at the very least, it is the green pendant they're getting. So it's all the items in Desert plus one more from Sahasrara.
But of course, given how rough this seed's been on both of our runners, the safety that comes with Tempered and Blue Mail might have some value all its own.
Yeah, I'm thinking at this point, tstew's feeling pretty comfy in their defenses with all the hearts, mail, and swords they have in hand.
possible that tstew might be feeling, having, taken a couple of deaths and drops on Moldor, might be feeling a little bit behind and feeling like maybe he needs to gamble to catch up, but it's still a pretty close race from what we can tell.
So it'll be interesting to see if that shovel that Corride just got in Eastern Death Mountain that tstew already has, if it'll ever get used, because it's very much in a location far away from anything else at this point, because we've already seen a lot of that area checked.
Yeah, that's a tough check to route in if you've already done your Cave 45, your Stumpy, all that Southside Dark World stuff. I think that might have been our first glimpse at Sick Kid, but with just a map of Thieves Town, that's not any information that tstew didn't already have.
Yeah, it looks like at this point, the runners are sort of swapping positions, and sort of Corride's cleaning up what tstew's done, and tstew's cleaning up what Corride's already done, as we proceed through this next little section here.
Yeah, I think the next new information we're likely to get will be what's in the backside of Skullwoods. Unless one of our runners decides to make a big brain play and fake flipper into ice, but that's a logic break that you'd rather not do, knowing that ice is so quick to go mode if you can manage it.
So yeah, as we have these runners sort of doing some stuff we've already seen, I'd say now's a pretty good time to say these runners are putting on a really good show. Please, I encourage you to follow them and watch for some more rando goodness on their streams. This has been a really exciting run, and it's just been great. So just a nice little reminder for all you out there.
Absolutely. I love watching two talented runners go head-to-head in what's been a very close and exciting race.
And I will say, watching like runners' streams, like on their stream, sometimes hearing them sort of think their thoughts out loud can be a nice little extra level that you don't get. Because sometimes when I've done commentary, I think like, I wonder what they're thinking, and I don't really get to know mid-run. But if you watch them after following and hanging out in their chat, you'd be like, oh, that's what he was thinking. That makes sense. Cool.
That's true. I've lost count of the number of times that I've seen a decision that didn't seem to make sense to me at the time, and then I asked the runner during the interview afterwards, and there's almost always a reason.
And Corride ran out of magic as they bonked into a torch through Spike Cave, did not make it back to the chest there. Not sure if they're opting to orphan it or go straight back to it again right now.
Well, wherever they're going, it's someplace where they're going to need magic, apparently. And it looks like the answer might very well be Skull Woods.
Yeah, so as Corride heads into some new information for us here, I'm trying to think what they haven't done that tstew has, and I think what that one difference is the desert area that tstew's gone to get bombos, to get all those extra safety items, blue mail, tempered sword. So we'll see what kind of impact that has to the Skull Woods area.
Yeah, beyond this, trying to think where else value might be hiding. It's hard to ignore Meyer, with the requirements to get in being so high, but all of it being in play. There's also the Smith chain, I suppose.
I think what Meyer has working against it is that, well, normally there's only 2 items there, but now it's jumped up to 4.
Ooh, and Corride taking a death on the Moth. Moth being very uncooperative. Meanwhile, tstew in his blind fight opts to play it safe and make ample use of the cape.
And we see Corride downing a blue potion as they respawn. You got to think, did they forget they had it, or did they intentionally want to save it for some reason? Because, yeah, that's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, it's when you're in the heat of that boss fight, it's easy to get bloodlust, think you can wait in for just one more hit. But this seed seems to be taking special delight in kicking both of our runners around, and when you're in that race situation, it's easy to imagine that you're racing against some theoretical perfect run and forget that your opponent's making mistakes too. This has been a very close, very good race to see. Hard to call any particular advantage at this point.
And in round 2, Corride takes Mothblood down. Those are some really intense jukes. Those spikes and those little shots Mothblood was firing were not being kind, but still dodges enough of them, gets around, grabs the crystal, moving on out.
Yep. tstew heading into his own Moth fight might have a slightly easier time, mostly on account of having tempered. That blue mail doesn't help all that much, since spikes do a flat 1 heart of damage regardless of what mail you have. And with Moth being such a glitchy boss, even the tempered won't necessarily help too much, because if he's over those spikes and has that invincibility, there's just nothing you can do but wait.
And with no book, we can't even get a pedestal check. It's the fact that it's still there is getting a little more spooky and spooky as our runners slowly check more places.
As a reminder, we're looking for the Ice Rod, we're looking for Quake, and we're not really looking for flippers, but we know they have to be out there somewhere, and any of those 3 items could potentially be on the pedestal.
Chat keeping us honest again. Swamp Palace is one of our pendants. So the dream is that we find Ice Rod and our medallion, or our coin, to get into Turtle Rock, which was Quake. We want to find those before flippers, because flippers can't be on pedestal.
Ah, very good point. And tstew having a much easier time with that moth. Mothula being much kinder and deciding to stay off of those spikes so tstew can get that nice, quick, easy 4 slashes with the tempered sword.
Now these runners both have cape and the big shield here. I'm just waiting to find the blue cane, and it just will feel like the seed is screaming, or the randomizer's screaming, laser bridge. Like, I'm giving you everything to protect yourself. Go to laser bridge, but I don't know.
Well, not much to worry about until we find that Quake medallion, but yeah, we don't want to see that Ice Rod laser bridge. Not today, RNGesus. And of course, we are playing in version 31 advanced logic, meaning that laser bridge no longer requires anything in particular. You are expected to be able to either brute force those lasers with iframes or use laser skips to get past them. Now, it looks like Corride also opting on that desert play. We know he won't find any progression in there, but it'll mean that he'll have some safeties going forward, and tstew won't have spent the time to clear that dungeon with Corride having skipped it, so sort of a nice win-win for both our runners.
Indeed, and as I'm reminded, desert is a green pendant, which tstew has. Have we seen it get turned in yet?
I don't believe we have, unless I blinked and missed it.
Admittedly, at this point, since we went to Eastern and Pod so early, that green pendant check is all on its lonesome right now, so I can understand why we're not checking it quite yet.
Yeah, with the flute in the mix, it's not that bad to get back to it, but so far, there's always been a better option.
And Corride about to find their Bombo, so it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with it, knowing that Meyer requires it to get in.
Yeah, I think the question at this point is, do you stick with the logic and head into Meyer? Or do you take the gamble, fake flip into Ice Palace for the crystal, and hope to find some progression in there, potentially skipping a dungeon that your opponent might go into?
Stocking up on more potion over there on Corride's side. Don't blame him.
The way this seed's been going, yeah, you might want to take those safeties where you can. And it looks like Corride's doing a fake flip play. Could be heading to Ice Palace, could be heading to Zora. And Corride is heading into Ice Palace. Out of logic, but if flippers are hiding in Misery Mire, it's entirely possible that we could find progression in here. And speaking of potential progression, let's see what that green pendant's going to give us today. Just a big 20. And a big 20 also in first Chest of Ice Palace. No love yet. tstew also opting to make the Ice Palace play. Corride heading into the hammer-locked portion of Ice Palace. This is where the value might be hiding. Quite a few checks lined up right here neatly in a row. But so far, just a bunch of wooden sticks. Not what we were hoping to see. If I've been counting my items right, we have one more small key and one more item left in Ice Palace here. Corride opting to make the safe play and go check the iced tea room. It's a rough room to try to route in. It takes so much time for one check, but if you gamble wrong, you don't want to leave it behind if you can help it. But just a map to Desert Palace, not going to be useful. Corride heading into his Cold Stare fight. He's got Tempered, he's got Blue Mail, he's got Bombos, which will save him a little bit of magic, let him have a couple of Fire Rod shots. Should be a pretty nice, manageable fight, but we'll see how it goes. It's been a rough seed.
apologies, I stepped away for a bit. Did both runners check all chests in Ice Palace?
Corride did, and we haven't found any value yet. I didn't see if tstew did. Chat is informing us that tstew did in fact skip iced tea. It was just a mapped desert palace. Nothing to worry about, although, assuming he did that on purpose, that's the sort of gamble that can weigh on your mind. But we know that he picked up a little bit of time by skipping that chest. And it looks like Corride might be giving us a Zora check here. He can also poke his head into the fairy fountain, having the moon pearl on his person at this point. tstew making a similar play, heading into Hobo, not having done the fake flipper checks before this. Oh, and Hobo has Quake. Now that's interesting. Oh, and Corride... Oh, no, Corride does have Quake. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was pretty sure Corride went there a while back, and I want to say we thought we saw Quake, and I don't know if it just slipped our minds or what, but it looks like it's just the Ice Rod now, then, for both of these runners.
Yes, indeed. Okay, yeah, I entirely missed, but yeah, I'm fairly sure you're right that Corride did pick up that Quake fairly early on. So that leaves an Ice Rod hunt. Could be in Mire. Looks like Corride's opting for the Smith chain here. Or it could always be hiding in Turtle Rock. And it looks like Turtle Rock may very well be where tstew's headed. That is where the density is. So far, the Smith chain coming up dry. We'll see whether that big purple chest has anything new for us.
It's
And it
interesting
looks
how
like-
much both of these runners really don't want to go into Misery Mire.
Yeah. I mean, both that and Turtle are fairly time-consuming dungeons, depending on Big Key's placement in Mire's case. Turtle Rock definitely has more checks. I'm liking the Turtle Rock play here, but if you're wrong, that's a big time sink. And of course, with maps and compasses being shuffled, that's 8 checks in Turtle Rock, 9 counting Mimic Cave. It's hard to justify the Mire play at this point. Of course, the other question is, if you find flippers, Ice Rod could still be hiding in Swamp Palace. That's got a whole lot of checks, but no! We have a Turtle Rock Ice Rod, and tstew enters go mode with Corride hot on his heels.
Okay, I can't be Ice Rod. At least it was really early. But still, I'm seeing that way too much lately. I'm tired of it. Honestly,
So Corride only a few rooms behind tstew at this point. It's going to be one of those races that comes down to GT Big Key placement and execution from this point on. It is very much anybody's game.
it also begs the question that will never be answered. Where were the flippers?
Mire seems to be the obvious answer. I'm not sure whether I'm missing anything else. And chat correctly pointing out that since Quake, which was required for Turtle Rock access, was flipper locked on Hobo, we're not going to find it in here.
What would be really amusing is if this turns out to be a pedestal flippers. Oh no, it can't because of Swamp. Never mind. Just kidding. I would have enjoyed seeing that little comment in the credits.
Barring some fetch quest shenanigans, like a mushroom in Mire, I think Mire flippers is pretty much the only option. tstew heading into his laser bridge. He has all the safeties, and butter just to make the rest of the seed that much easier.
Did you say safeties? We got half magic too.
This is the point where the seed has mercy on our players, says, I've been hard enough on you, here you go.
The only thing it hasn't bestowed on us is silvers.
True, but with Butter Sword and half magic, so you don't even have to worry about that, that Ganon fight should be nice and easy for our runners, even if they don't find silvers between here and there. T-Stew making short work of Trinex. Always so satisfying to kill that lizard with the butter sword in hand.
And 15 hearts now. Blue mail, butter sword, bunch of other protection, half magic. Where was all this when these runners were doing pod and had like nothing?
Heck, where was all this before AGA 1? When everybody had their hearts in their throats with a heart and a half.
We see numbers blowing up in chat. That can only mean one thing. It's the big key guessing game. How many chests do you think it's going to take before we find that big key in Ganon's tower here? You have any favorite numbers or locations yourself, Ben?
I always guess 2, because we do need a small key as well. So first chest, small key, second chest, big key. That's the way I like to see it. Nice, generous GT.
I am a fan of the bonk torch, so I think that's usually the third check, so I'll say 3. I just like seeing it sitting up there when you come down the steps. It's like, oh, cool, thanks.
Look at that! I have been having the best luck guessing GT big key lately.
So it does indeed seem like the seed finally said, okay, you've been through the hard part, just finish. You're done.
And unless Corride decides to go for some Dark Magician shenanigans, at this point, it's just a pure execution race. Which means it's very much T-Stew's game to lose, but we won't know till it's over. A bad fall on Ganon. Plenty of stuff could potentially happen between here and the end credits.
Little interesting thing here, T-Stew actually has the butter sword that Corride does not have. So apparently Corride ducked out a laser bridge a little early.
Yep, looking to make up a little bit of time. Unfortunately, that lack of butter sword will probably wind up costing him a little more time than he made up by not dipping into Turtle.
He's going left.
Oh no.
Right. No. Go right.
We can only hope that he's doing Dark Magician, but even then, that's spending time that he cannot afford to spend right now.
Okay, pulled out the mirror. This is good. This is good. Lamolus, meanwhile, down on T-Stew's side, climbing up Ganon's tower with relative ease.
T-Stew just blazing through the last couple of rooms of the gauntlet here. It's hard to imagine much getting in his way before he gets to that big blue pig.
T-Stew checking a few more chests on the way up, maybe hoping to find those silvers? I think that's the only thing at this point that would really be a game changer.
Yep, and of course we know that he's far and away ahead, but coming up at the end of a long, tough race where the Siege just doesn't seem to want to cooperate with you, he may very well be feeling like he needs the edge that those silvers will give him. But unless they're hiding in validation chests, it's gonna be a silverless Ganon fight today. And you know, I make noises about how rough this seed's been, you know, both of our runners having taken unintentional deaths and just generally being knocked around, but looking at the clock, tstew at 1 hour and 36 minutes heading into his Aga 2 fight, this has been a very strong showing from both of our runners. Very quick seed. tstew making short work of everyone's favorite geometry wizard.
I still need to use a protractor on that fight myself.
Yeah, my geometry's bad too. That's why that fight is always protracted when I'm doing it. And tstew, counting those hits like a pro, he knows exactly how many slashes he needs to get Ganon into that second phase. And look at that, third phase already. Just no respect for this pig. No respect.
Corride here saving a little bit of time on tstew, not checking those last chests. Unfortunately, not going to be enough, barring tstew falling off. But it's kind of interesting to see a little bit of changes in thoughts here between the two.
tstew getting off the torch glitch, lining up those spins, preparing to send this pig into his grave.
And I'm seeing in chat, I didn't read Ganon's text, but apparently the silvers were somewhere in GT, in Ganon's tower. So, wonder how far in they would have...
And that's a dead pig. tstew has only one more obstacle, the Deadly Bridge, before claiming the Triforce and victory. And get your GGs in chat. tstew claims victory in this race and in this match between these two runners here today. He will be moving on to the next stage of the tournament.
Meanwhile, Corride, hot on tstew's heels, is now in the Ganon fight. With Tempered Sword, going to take a few more hits in these first few phases, but still going to get through quite fast, I'm sure.
Yep, and with Blue Mail and plenty of hearts, he doesn't have to worry too much. He can wade in and bravely get those hits in quite efficiently. entering into that final phase where the lack of butter no longer makes any difference.
Just noticed, doesn't have half magic either. They're still using the fire rod, but that consumes a lot of magic. So you're gonna have to watch out.
That's true, although Corride has been going out of his way to pick up potions, so may have some safeties in the bank. And certainly they're not fighting as though they're afraid of running out of magic. And there it is. And the pig goes down. Corride finishing up just about 3 minutes behind tstew. Very nice close race today.
For sure, GG to both of these runners for putting on an excellent show.
What a good race we had today. Lots of exciting low percentage action in the early game. It was wonderful to see it just open up once both our runners entered into the dark world and got that just loaded pod. Just a great couple of hours of randomized action here today.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the credits right now because I'm still interested to see what was on the pedestal. At this point, it probably wasn't anything all that great, but it would still be nice.
Just a little set of explosions. Nothing too exciting. And now seems to be a good time to just remind everybody once again to give both of our wonderful runners a follow and to give a big thanks to Sundrace316, our tracker here today. One of the unsung heroes of Randomizer are the folks working behind the scenes to keep everything up to date for us here. And if you want to watch some more Randomizer action, this tournament with all 128 talented runners is going to be going on for quite a while. You'll have no end of content here and on Speed Gaming's 2 through, I think, 6. There's 6 of them.
I love the little touches they put in the credits for different items. So the cartographer kid, because he gave us a map. Gotta appreciate some of the little nice touches to this randomizer. A lot of love was put into it for sure.
Absolutely. You know, we're so focused on getting through every seed as fast as possible. Sometimes it's nice to boot up the randomizer and just play it as if it were the vanilla game. Just go through slow, talk to the NPCs, see all the silly meme text that the devs have hidden in there just for us. So I'm looking at the tournament challenge page here. Looks like tstew will be moving on from this stage and facing off against JTB for the finals of Group H to see who will move along from the group stage to the bracket stage. Meanwhile, Corride will be facing off against Korek in the elimination round. The winner of that round will move on, and the... I don't like to say loser, because we're all winners here, but the lesser of two winners will not be moving on in the tournament. Look at that. GT Big Key, 2 out of 22. That's what I like to see. And we do seem to have some... Yeah, Discord's been acting up. We're going to see if we can get Corride in here for an interview. One moment. Yeah, trying to send some messages, see if we can get Corride a last minute invite to the interview. Unfortunately, some of the behind the scenes Discord stuff's been being a little finicky. It's why I showed up a couple minutes late today. But once again, huge thanks to all of our runners and to everybody working behind the scenes at Speed Gaming, making sure that everything works to get us a show to put on for you guys here. I always say, I'm never surprised when things break down. I'm surprised that they ever work, because there are so many moving parts to make all of this stuff happen, between the restreams, the tracking, the development of the randomizer itself, for that matter. The back end of Twitch, just a million things that can go wrong, and I'm just happy that they go right as often as they do.
And looking at these two runners in their final screen here, very similar final items. One more piece of heart found by tstew than Corride. One more sword. The half magic was found. But overall, like in the end, these runners did like a lot of the exact same checks, just based on the way the seed was laid out. A little bit of crisscross and routing, but kind of interesting how that all kind of funnels into like the one end result that they both ended up at.
Yeah, with both of them having made the decision to fake flip into Ice Palace and the flippers never being found, that sort of limited the amount of checks that one could make that the other couldn't. The only thing that one of them might have done would have been making the decision to go into Misery Mire, but they both made the correct decision to seek out that ice rod in Turtle Rock and were rewarded for it. And we've got some of our lovely speed gaming volunteers trying to get an invite to Corride. I know he expressed a wish in chat to give us a little post-race interview here. We'll see whether we're able to make that happen here today. Thanks for bearing with us, folks.
Corride, at the very least, I see you're still listening in chat. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to just share within the chat? I know it's not as nice as speaking like in a formal interview call, but I'm still interested to see like how things felt from your perspective.
All right. Well, it looks like Discord's actually having some rather major issues, so it looks like we might have to forego the traditional post-race interview today, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please do give both of our talented runners a follow, and stay tuned for more of this wonderful tournament. Any final thoughts, Xander?
At this point, just final thank yous. Thank you, Ben Creighton, for co-commentating with me. It was most certainly a pleasure. Thank you to our runners. Thank you to Speed Gaming for hosting a lot of these races, and for all you viewers and your chatters keeping us honest in our commentating and just keeping the energy high as we watch these. This is a really exciting thing to be a part of, and I appreciate you all. So yeah, there's plenty of Randomizer to go around in the near future, so keep an eye out for Speed Gaming, all their channels 1 through 6. Follow them, see when races are up, and you will not be disappointed. But on that note, that's all I got. So thanks everyone for watching. If you have anything else to add, Ben, feel free.
I think that'll do it for today. Thanks everybody so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.